I'll be redrawing this art piece that I drew a year ago, and I'll be showing the steps on how I drew it. As you may not know, I adore Miku for the past few years. When I was a little child, my broke butt couldn't afford anything at the time, so I always played Miku rhythm games. Now, I am involved into a Miku figurine collector. And as for context for this drawing, I desperately wanted this Hatsune Miku 15th anniversary figurine, thinking that one day I will buy it. But guess what? I searched it on Google and checked the price. Despite the money it costs, I remind myself that I'm an artist. Well, a drawer. You probably already know why I drew this. Now, I'll be redrawing this to determine whether if I improved or not for this past year. Now, let's get started on this art piece and hop on IbisPaint. Disclaimer. Now the following steps for this are sketch, base color, rendering, and cleanup. I start off my sketch with shapes. Shapes are a good way to start off the drawing. It guides the sizing and the position. I didn't worry about the pose too much because I was too lazy to do a complex one, so I stayed with the basic pose from the old drawing. I always use references when drawing, which can be found on Pinterest. Pinterest is like your online best friend. It's always there for you when you need it. You could use other websites like Google and such, but I personally love the creativity that Pinterest gives. They really motivate me and help me when I'm stuck or don't know what to draw. Okay, I know how ugly the sketch is, but trust the process, because I don't usually like to spend most of my time on sketch or liner since I render on top of it. Like as a face, it's really looking fuggly at first, but I thought it would turn into scrap, but I put in my dedication and was determined to finish this art piece to prove that I gotten better in art. Now, liner. I like to keep things really simple and not try to like over detail the liner. I don't really do like a really clean liner because since I'm gonna like render on top of it, so I kept it really simple and like simplified everything I'm gonna render for. Now the face and the bangs are like the most favorite part that I love to draw and sketch. Like ever since I was little, started traditional art, I always draw like bangs like covering the eyes or anime bang, so I really got used to it and always play around it. For liner, I always use some line weight in the art to give some depth. Line weight is just using a thicker line stroke for heavier or the shadowing parts. Like as you can see, there are some rough chicken scratches, so I just leave it how it is. So now we have to draw the clothes. I like to draw clothes with triangles, but I'm not so sure on really how to draw clothes because the last time I done a clothing study, and that was the only time. I just tried to put the clothing wrinkles in the tight or loose parts, but I try not to overdo the wrinkles too much since it could look unsettling. Now my least favorite part of drawing, hands. As you might heard of from the other artists, the hands is the worst enemy. Well, to me I guess. Whenever I draw hands, they rather look like a toddler's hand or chicken feet. A tip I learned is to cover them, but this time I am not running away from my responsibility. My favorite part of clothes are the one that involves with ruffles. I especially love adding extra details of ruffles in clothing or accessories. For ruffles, I draw trapezoids, which are like overlapping ruffles and scribbles and such. But this, you can tell how lazy I get. I only because I don't really want to over detail or spend too much time on one spot. I still want to keep the puffiness of the skirt and keep the design the same. I added the lace and the ruffles details on the corset. Then after I drew the bustle and the big bow on top of the skirt. Wait, I just realized this design mainly involved with ruffles. As you can see, I didn't draw the extra details like the plaid and the small green staff because for me, it is best to draw it on the rendering stage to keep things simplified at first. I forgot to say that the wind would be blowing from the right to left, so I drew the bonnet's ribbon facing towards the left side to keep things more alive and interesting since I still want to keep things different from the old drawing. This hair for the Miku figurine was pretty confusing. Since it was a gigantic big curl, I honestly just eyeball it and just copy what I see based on the reference I used. Well, okay, it looks like a bit messy, but trust the rendering that will save me. Drawing the staff was pretty simple, as it was just drawing a rod with a giant strawberry diamond shape like. I tried different ways to angle the staff to show how flowy everything, like drawing the ribbon facing towards the left side because of the wind. After everything is drawn, I do a quick cleanup to be ready for the rendering. Starting off with flat colors for the base, which is a separate layer underneath the sketch. For choosing colors, I stick with the basic Miku's color because I didn't want to worry about this bit. For preventing color bleeding through, you have to use a clip-in mask to ensure that the colors will stay in the box. Clip-in mask really helps to stay in the space. This stage doesn't take too long, as it just placing down the basic colors through. Rendering for me is honestly just making a better version of the sketch in base color, just really like yassifying and making it all pretty and stuff. So this issue though, it could go wrong. I sometimes always hit random art block just coming at me, so I basically just have to go with the flow. I usually render with 4 main colors: base color, shadow, highlight, and the reflected light color. And then you just combine it all together. Now onto Miku's face. I absolutely love rendering faces. Most of my art main focus is the person's face, which I usually spend the most detail on. My idea for Miku's face is to give her like a bubbly expression, since the Volcad Hatsune Miku 50th anniversary figure is very happy, cute figure. When blending colors together, I don't use the smudge tool or the Gaussian blur effect for smoothing. I use a method called cross-hatching. Cross-hatching is lines that are overlapping to create a texture shadow effect. Although it's a long process, but I personally love the texture. Although when rendering, I honestly use my brain and just ball it and see what works well. But first, starting off with the flat colors that contains the shadows and the light source. I use a desaturated blue and set it to multiply for the shadow. Here, I planned out that my light source will be coming from above to give a dramatic effect. I used the color pink and set the mode to add for the light source. Even though choosing colors may be difficult to find, I often like to use a coloring method called complementary colors. Now, what are complementary colors? I don't know, just Google it. Searching on Google will give you a better definition and a list of colors with lots of options, such as Miku's hair. Since it's teal, I use a light bright pink to give it contrast. Since we base our basic colors of shadows, highlights, it's time to add the midtones. But before we do, first we have to make the colors coordinated. As you see, some of the tones doesn't match with each other. I use a gradient coloring in the anime background effect. This will help the colors to coordinate well with each other nicely. It's time to add the details and the blending. Now that we set our colors nicely, it's time to add the midtones. The midtones are the blending part, so I'll focus on the whole piece rather than overdoing the details on each part. When I was a beginner digital artist, I focused on one aspect and finish rendering. However, if I mess up, I would have to erase and draw over the detail parts, which can be very time consuming. But I learned that it's good to render the art far away, then start adding details and such. This will help make things be more equal and easier for a smoother process. So I use a darker color to outline and define the art to give a clear focus. I draw thin lines and weight lines to give more depth, which can really help the art piece to look more alive. Now the close. The hardest yet the most time-consuming rendering process ever. If I'm being honest, I haven't done really a close study since I've been kind of avoiding it, but I'm very committed to doing a good job to prove myself that I've been proving this year. For the clothing wrinkles, I still have trouble with them, but I usually draw them like the letter X, Y, and Z but rendered. But don't take this for granted, as I'm not a professional artist. I only saw this method on Pinterest and been using it ever since. Rendering hair, I honestly just guess what I'm rendering. I never done a hair rendering study. Maybe I should try some, but like I'm kind of lazy with art studies. I only practice art studies with like compositions and poses because I really need to practice on that. Now I have to practice on rendering other aspects like hair, clothes, that stuff. But I honestly don't know what to do. I generally just ball it and wing it. And like this Miku art, the figurine main aspect other than the huge puffy dress is the hair. Like as you can see, it covers the whole screen. So I tried to put my dedication onto the hair by putting like the darkest part inside the curl and the lightest part, the outer region of the curls. This literally just taking the closest part, the lightest, and the furthest part, darkest and stuff. Actually, don't listen to me. I don't even know what I'm saying. Now adding the shadows, then blending, and finally highlights. And lastly, I added the sparkle highlights on the eyes to give a static look on Miku's face. After I add extra details and adjustments, here I use a 5-line brush on the empty spaces and add sparkles around the art to fulfill it. This will help the drawing to look more complete and less boring. So after everything is rendered, it's time to go on the cleanup stage. Here I redefine the lines and add more texture by using a texture brush, such as watercoloring or painting. This will help the art piece to not feel empty. Adding effects and adjusting the colors is a game changer. For finding texture brush, I just scroll on Pinterest and search up keywords like IbisPaint QR code, brush QR codes, because since I use IbisPaint, so there's lots of various QR codes over there, so you can check them out, test on the brushes, and not just IbisPaint. There's also some Procreate, Clip Studio Paint, all that good stuff, programs that you can always check out and explore. So it's a really big help and a game changer. So to really show that I got better at drawing is to try something different from the older drawing. Therefore, I added lace at the end of the ruffles. And the flower textures on the clothes, I didn't really want to make such a big difference since I am still drawing this figurine, so I still kept things accurate towards it. To spice things up, I added additional aspects such as sparkles to keep things energized. Once the rendering is done, I start to adding details on the clothes, bonnet, face, and hair. The effects that I usually use often are the noise effect, RGB effect, and the gradient coloring. This could really spice up your drawing and making things more interesting and creative. But my favorite effect that I like to use is like this retro one right here on IbisPaint. I don't know about other programs. I've been always using IbisPaint ever since like 2020. I only started digital art not that long ago. Actually, it's only been 4 years. I consider that kind of long, I guess, now. But I always use this effect to really make it like a retro feeling, like a video game also. So it really could really make it really interesting and creative. I don't know. I really like the feeling. Oh my god. As I got too caught up with the details, I forgot to draw the bottom. So I'll be doing a quick speed run of the drawing of last minute. I like to add a wispy aura that outlines the character to give a magical dramatic effect, which helps to give a clear focus on the person's beautiful face that attracts the audience. After adjusting to my liking, the art piece is finished. So that's all the steps of my art process from sketch to rendering of me redrawing this 1 year difference art. Now the moment you've been waiting for. Here's the 2023 version and the 2024 version. So now the big answer for this question, did I improve? The answer is, I don't know. I personally think that I improved because it's the art. Okay, I can't express how much I really like it. It turned out better than I expected. I always planned out this video, but I'm happy how it turned out. So I think I improved. But let me know what you guys think. Please comment down below if I improved or not, because I want to hear what you guys think about this drawing. Now, here's a summary of this video. Hope you enjoyed that me redrawing Miku. Now I'll be seeing you next